Welcome back to the Critical Moves podcast. Today I'm joined by the awesome duo of Adam.
Hello everyone.
And Mr. Joseph. How are you doing?
All right.
Excellent. So today, I think it's the perfect company. We're going to be talking about bad guys, and Adam's here to represent, which is great. So we wanted to talk about bad guys in strategy games and how they appear. Do they appear? I think is an interesting question. And why do we like playing as bad people, evil factions in strategy games? But there are some notable bad guy characters out there. Do you guys have any examples of some really nasty, evil characters in strategy games?
Yeah, there are quite a few. I feel like there are some genres who have more standout bad guys, but the ones we do have are pretty good. There's one I'm thinking of that I'd love to go into, but it feels like one Al should cover, so I'm not going to steal it. I'm going to let Al cover this purely Al one, and I'm going to start with, I guess, a tragic bad guy with Arthas from Warcraft 3. Are you guys familiar with Arthas from Warcraft 3?
Oh yeah.
Yeah? What do we think? Is he a memorable bad guy, Adam?
Yeah. This is really interesting because strategy games usually don't rely so hard on plot, and on the other end of the spectrum, Arthas is, in my opinion, one of the best created bad guy in the video games ever.
Yeah. Yeah, he's literally Darth Vader. Same thing, right? It's the fall. You follow him along as this fall. You actually get to play it out in the game. And I've played that campaign 2 or 3 times, and every time I find myself wishing this is going to be the time where he doesn't go bad. You know, because I like him so much better as a paladin than I do as a Death Knight, even though I like Death Knights. But just such a memorable character, and they actually did a good job, I feel like, of giving him a reason to go bad, if that makes sense. He was trying to save his homeland, right? He was a justified bad guy, like they all think they are.
They do a good job of ripping off Darth Vader.
They do. I mean, that's what it is, really. I feel like when Warcraft 3 came out, did we know the full extent to the Darth Vader tragedy? I don't think we did. I think Warcraft 3 came out before that third Star Wars movie.
Oh yeah, interesting take.
The third Star Wars movie was Return of the Jedi.
No, the third prequel, I should say.
Right, okay. Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. I'm nearly positive.
Yeah, but we knew Darth Vader was a bad guy in 1977.
I know. You're right. But we didn't know that he went bad because he was trying to protect what he loved. We didn't know that. We didn't know why he went bad. So this is a hot take, but did Star Wars rip off Warcraft?
I don't know. I mean, I was talking to Adam before we hit record, and we were waiting for you. And I said, I've never really been into the Blizzard games. If you think, I always think of RTS games. There was like a divergence. There was Westwood and there was Blizzard, and I was firmly in the Westwood camp. So I don't really have an opinion.
Warcraft 3 came out in 2002. Revenge of the Sith came out in 2005. So
that's crazy.
I don't know. I don't know if we can really say that Warcraft totally ripped off Star Wars because
I never said it did.
Oh, you did.
I'm just saying
you did.
I did not. I said what you were describing
Yeah.
when you, and even you said he was like Darth
I know,
Vader.
that's what it is like, but Darth Vader's like him, maybe. Maybe Darth Vader's like him.
Have you played World of Warcraft though, Joe?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Because I believe that the whole Warcraft universe is about how you use the power you get in order to do good. So, for example, there is another character there called Illidan.
Yeah, another classic bad guy.
Exactly. Again, he tried to make good, but he became demon instead.
Yeah, Their universe is full of people who get corrupted by power, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
He has a Jedi feel to him because he's known for his super cool swords.
Oh yeah.
But isn't this the thing with these bad guys? If they are one-dimensional, then we're not interested. If Arthas was a one-dimensional, hey, I'm evil just because I want to be evil, would anybody actually care? Because it'd be like, oh, we've seen this before. We've seen horrible people. We're not bothered. But the tragic fallen hero situation is something which people can get invested in, and they can actually get behind and enjoy a lot more than just he's bad because he's bad. There's a justification for this guy's turn to evil, and that has the player invested.
Yeah, they do a good job of it too. They give him that story that you buy into, and then they give him cool armor and a cool weapon. And strategy gamers are, I'm in. I'm a fan.
Adam, who stands out for you?
So of course Arthas is a good character. I mean bad character, but really well made. I would say also Kerrigan from StarCraft 2. I would say she has the same principles because she also switches sides in the middle of the game. StarCraft 1, sorry. In StarCraft 2 she's already on the other side. And of course, one and only, oh my god, I forgot his name, from Red Alert series.
Red Alert is Yuri.
Oh, okay. I mixed them. Kane, as far as I remember, he also wanted to do good at some point. Am I right?
Yeah, and I think this is the other side of the coin, because you have the bad guys who have turned, and from what you've said there, Blizzard weren't particularly smart in terms of, it sounds like you've got two bad guys with exactly the same story arc. And that's one way that they are portrayed. They were good and now they're bad. And then you've got the tragic bad guy. And I suppose Kane believed he was the good person in this. He believed that the message of the Brotherhood of Nod faced off against the GDI was the message of the people, and they decided to drop nukes on things. So I guess it's one of those situations where if people believe they are good, they can still be bad though, can't they?
Yeah, he's would you say his story is then similar to Thanos, where he thought he was doing good no matter how many people had to die to do that good?
Maybe. I mean, quite possibly. I think that I don't think that Thanos believed he was. I think that Thanos was, and we're going well off strategy games now.
That's
But I think
okay.
that he kind of knew what he was doing was wrong. I think that, but he did it anyway. I don't think there was any kind of crisis of conscience with Thanos. He knew that wiping out 50% of life in the universe was a bad thing to do, but he just did it anyway. So yeah, kind of, but not 100%. But
Interesting aside.
yeah, um, yeah, Marvel Cinematic Universe aside, maybe. But I think that it's interesting because when we said about doing this episode, and I was like, I wasn't really sure about this one. I can't remember who it was who suggested it. It was one of you guys, I think. And I was like, well, haven't we just kind of? I mean, we've mentioned you, we've mentioned Kane, you've mentioned the two from Blizzard, and it's like we're almost at the point where okay, thanks for the episode. It's time to go, because you kind of run out of named characters who are bad people in strategy games.
No. Warhammer.
Named characters.
Warhammer, Al. Warhammer is full of bad generals, is it not? This is your game, although you don't like Warhammer Fantasy as much, but because of Total War Warhammer, I feel like we have a plethora of named bad guys that we absolutely love. Think of, what is the guy who calls himself the best? Oh, it's going to kill me. The Black Orc. The giant Black Orc who loves himself the best.
Whilst you think of the name, Warhammer existed before these strategy games existed that we're talking about. Whereas StarCraft existed as StarCraft with its characters, and Red Alert with its characters, and so on and so forth. So I suppose, yeah, you're right. There are evil characters in Warhammer, but they're linked to Warhammer rather than being linked to those particular games. As in, they weren't written specifically for those games. They already existed in the lore. Whereas I think that if you're looking at, okay, this is a strategy game, and this is an evil or bad character purely for that strategy game, I think that we struggle to say, okay, well, there's another 6. You could name a dozen straight out of Warhammer Fantasy, which made their way into the Total War Warhammer series. They say about Warhammer 40k, if you look at Dawn of War, look at Gladius and Battle Sector, there's so many Warhammer 40k strategy games, and they say there's no good guys in 40k. Everyone's a bad guy in 40k. So yeah, sure. I mean, it's changed ever so slightly with 40k. I think they've Mary sued a lot of people just to make it a little bit more accessible to American markets. But I think that for strategy specific lore, there's very, very few named bad guy characters.
I know, but it's still a strategy game, Albus. It's still a strategy game that exists. And I really think the Warhammer fantasy fandom revels in their bad guys. They do. And I get what you're saying, though. I was trying to think, who's the good guy? The only good guys are the Bretonia.
To be honest, I don't know much about lore, but as far as I remember, Britannia has also its issues, like its tyranny or like...
Yeah, I felt like taking it back almost right away. They run their whole governmental system on taking advantage of the peasant class. So
Britannia was based on the court of King Arthur and feudalism. So they just hand peasants spears and marched them into the fields to be slaughtered by ogres and dragons. So is that good guys? Not really. And this is the thing, I suppose. If you want to take Warhammer and Warhammer 40k in isolation, there are no good guys. I suppose to a degree, everybody is capable of doing bad things. But there's more strategy games out there where they have their own specific lore. But I think that you're going to struggle to have a named character who you can point to and say they are bad, other than the 4 that we've mentioned. If you aside your established franchises, like, I mean, you can play as Darth Vader in Empire at War. He's the quintessential bad guy, isn't he? You can play as Darth Vader in Star Wars Supremacy, or Star Wars Rebellion, as it was known in the US. You can play as Emperor Palpatine is in that game. But this is lore which existed. This is an IP which existed prior to the games, and the same with Warhammer.
I get what you're saying, but Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k exist as games, not as movies. I mean, they are movies now, but they were built as board games, which are, and the games we're playing now are just digital versions of these board games, aren't they? So you say we could be Emperor Palpatine, but he's from the Star Wars movies. The Warhammer 40k bosses are from Star Wars miniatures, right? I mean, that's, or not Star Wars, Warhammer miniatures. That's how that started, and people use it as wargaming. So I get what you're saying, and I wasn't going to fight back, but then when you brought up the Star Wars, I'm like, I don't know. The Warhammer Fantasy and 40k exist as basically a fancy ass adult board game. Board game.
Yeah.
That we've now digitalized. So I think it half works. I think we're in a gray area.
I
think I've talked you onto my side.
Well, I was going to say we'll agree to disagree, but we're not disagreeing. I think we're just coming at this from different angles.
Yeah.
You're saying, well, Warhammer was a game, and it is still, and then it became a video game version of that game, and Star Wars was a movie, which then became a video game version of that movie. But my approach is this: these are different mediums neither was a video game, and they've both fed in to become video games. So for Shadow of the Horned Rat and any other Warhammer video game that you talk about, they are pulling the lore from a different source. For all of the Star Wars games, they're pulling the lore from a different source. So yeah, you're right, but I think so am I to a degree.
Don't try to sweet talk me by bringing up Shadow of the Horned Rat. It's a great game.
Did it
but
work?
it's not going to
Did it
let you
work?
win this argument. It's a great
It's not
game.
an argument. It's not an argument.
That's true.
But anyway, let's move on. Other than just named characters, there's factions which are bad, aren't there? And the first one that stood out to me when I was thinking about this was the Aeon from Supreme Commander. You've both played Supreme Commander, haven't you?
I played Supreme Commander, but I really don't remember anything. I remember there were 2 factions. That's what I remember. About
3 factions.
Oh yeah, so see, I got it wrong, and I played this game. So, but so okay, but we can choose different example, and I have pretty funny one. What do you think about? And this is the thing that came to my mind. Like the second thing that came to my mind when I thought about bad guys in video games, and I thought about Gandhi in Civilization, because if anyone is not accustomed to the topic, basically in the Civilization 1 there was this bug that caused Gandhi to be the most aggressive out of the AIs you can play against. Basically, the authors of the game held to it, and in every installment Gandhi is the most aggressive leader.
That's funny. He is the most evil faction in that game.
Yeah,
Eventually,
yes.
Gandhi's coming for you.
I'm gonna dispel this because it's simply not true.
But he's nuking everyone.
No. It is it is an urban myth. Okay,
No, it's
it is an
not.
urban myth. How it is. So what they said was that there was a bug. This was how it was described. There was a bug, so you had like your aggression score, and they said that Gandhi was so low down on the aggression score that when you took a dip slightly lower, past 0, it put you right up to the top. Can you imagine it's like cyclical? So when you drop down to 0, you don't go to -1, you go to 99 instead. Yeah. And this is where the myth came from. This is how people explain this thing as being a thing, but it wasn't true.
Man, wait.
How?
I'm a programmer. I'm a programmer, and I even know why this bug happened. Because due to the binary numbers and how they convert to decimal numbers, you can flip the bit in the end.
Yeah, but it didn't happen. It's an urban myth. However, it was such a believed urban myth that in the next game, so I think that might have been in Civ 3 and then in Civ 4 or Civ 4 and then into Civ 5. I can't remember which one it was. But in the next game, Firaxis bought into it. And in the next game, they made it a thing where Gandhi would nuke people. But the actual origins of Nuclear Gandhi, it's Urban Dictionary, man. It's not true.
So Gandhi lived long enough to become the bad guy?
No. Well, I suppose. Okay.
I guess he believes in reincarnation, so maybe he's a bad guy right now. Who knows?
Yeah, there's no evidence that the bug existed in the original code. Right? There's absolutely nothing to suggest that happened.
You may be right.
It's an urban myth. I am right. I mean,
yeah.
However, they did buy into the next game, and they made it a thing. So he does exist. However, the origins of. But I suppose, I mean, let's talk about the Civ games then, okay? Because I suppose no matter who you play as, you could be evil, couldn't you? Like Gandhi, the most peaceful man who ever existed, other than Adam, has in civilization is dropping nukes on people. Nuclear Gandhi. It's a something which is in popular popular knowledge, I guess, isn't it? So it is a thing. And I guess that's true of any leader in Civ. You could be the most peaceful person, but how you decide to play would influence just how evil you are. And this is something I wanted to come to with strategy games. And it's something that we covered right at the start of Critical Moves. I can't remember which episode it was, but I'll put it on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube, and I'll put it in the description if you're listening to this on one of the other podcasting platforms. We talked about morality in strategy games and how in games like Hearts of Iron you could play as Nazi Germany, and how it was kind of acceptable to do that. And our strategy games, one of the best genres for allowing you to be evil.
I think so. I mean, if you think of like a Civ game, right? Almost every victory condition, if you really think about it, is basically some form of dominance. Unless you win via going to space and going to Alpha Centauri.
Or science.
Yeah, the science win. If you win the science, anything else, if you really twist it, could be seen as a dominance/evil victory. Even the culture victory in Civ 5. I mean, your culture took over everyone else's culture and everyone lost their culture. And now the world is a homogenous blue gene monoculture. I mean, yeah, Civ certainly does it.
Was Civ 5 the one where you could do religion as well? So you could spread
Yeah.
your religion to your neighboring empires, and I mean, if you look at what's happening even now in the world, where religion is such a key point when it comes to conflict. If you look at the Middle East, you look at the Israel and Iran situation. That's religious in origin. And yet we have this game, this fun strategy game, Civilization, where you can utilize those religious mechanics in order to influence the game and influence how you play.
Exactly, and also if you look on this issue from the top. So basically, when it comes to the war in the today's world, when it comes to the annihilation of another opponent, so one country dominating another country, it's in 99% of the cases it's treated as the bad thing, and that's correct. But if you look at the tactical scale, so I mean single battles, we often in history of USA, history of Great Britain, history of Poland, we often have great leaders we treat as heroes because they won some specific battles, but usually we don't treat a leader who dominated other countries as a hero. So when we get it back to the video games, basically most of the video games is about dominating your opponent. So more or less, you in the terms of real world, you are kind of a bad guy.
And I think Paradox games, that's a good point, Adam. I think a lot of the Paradox games try to do something to combat that. If you look at the way they work with infamy and warmongering, they will specifically try to band the world or universe against you if you do too much of that. And I was thinking about also with Al's point on religious, Stellaris, his game mimics some of that. I mean, you could fanatical purifiers on that game, right?
You can, and you're absolutely right. And I do like how Paradox play that with Stellaris, where if you are too bad, then you do get punished for it. And I think that should be the way it is, right? I mean, that you should. is it right that you should be punished for being the bad guy? And of course, if you're playing Stellaris and you go and you if you're playing as like a exterminator, or if you're playing as a fanatic purifier, or one of these quintessentially evil factions who are just wiping out everybody, nobody likes you. Everybody hates you, so you can't do diplomacy. You're simply shunned by the rest of the galaxy, by the rest of society, which is, I suppose, how things are in the real world. If you're an evil person, then you don't. If you don't play well with others, then nobody wants to play with you. That's simply the way it is. But also on that Stellaris point, a lot of these bad mechanics, you're rewarded for them. You know, if you are a fanatic purifier and you go and you take over another empire, you can, for example, you can use the pops of your conquered enemies as food. Or if you are, there's, I think it's in the Machine Age DLC, that one of the newer DLCs, they have and they added it to the base game. They have, I think it's called the synaptic lathe, where you basically plug people into a machine and you use their brains to generate science. So very Matrix-esque in that respect, you know, where you submit these people to bondage, to slavery.
Also in that game, one of the best ways to build finances, at least at the beginning of the game, was to be a slaver empire. And it was perfectly possible for you to be friends with everyone while also being a slaving empire in that game.
Not anymore, I guess. I mean, I've been playing, and it was a bad thing, man. I started playing Stellaris again recently, and I just stopped. And I stopped doing other things, like, you know, editing podcast episodes and eating and sleeping and other things like that.
Behind the veil. That's why when I'm like, I haven't done my latest 30 minutes of, Al's like, no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal, because I've been busy conquering the galaxy.
Nice.
But it's one of those situations where if you go out and you act in a bad way, then the fallen empires will come after you. For example, you know, you've got to balance your evil doing, not go too deep into the evil doing. Otherwise, you get everybody just gangs upon you because they see you as a threat. And also in Stellaris, before we move on to something else, also in Stellaris, there's the whole crisis mechanics. So you can become the crisis. You can move towards the end of the galaxy, and as you do that, as you move through the crisis chain, more and more of the galaxy will perceive you as a threat, and eventually they'll gang up against you and they'll attempt to stop you. So it's very clever how they do it, because you are rewarded for being bad, but you also suffer the consequences of your badness as well. I wanted to talk about a couple of other things as well whilst we was on this episode. It's how the real world is portrayed in games, and how it becomes acceptable to relive or replay or redo portions of, you know, infamous portions of history. So Hearts of Iron, for example, you know, I mentioned it earlier, but we just kind of glossed over it. So in Hearts of Iron, it's World War II. You can play as Germany, and we covered this a couple of years ago now. Wow, we've been doing this for so long. When we looked at the morality episode, I mean, is it okay for you to be playing as Nazi Germany given what they actually did?
So I would look at this situation from the future. So again, let's imagine that we are creating a game that is based on our current times, 50 years from now on. We can touch the topics of current conflicts in two ways, basically. One way is pure tactical strategic one, and that's what is done by Hearts of Iron, for example. You don't get this all bad Nazis thing that happened in the past. You only experience tactical and strategical layer, or you can try to somehow focus on these things. I would say that when it comes to Paradox games, they are doing pretty good in terms of skipping the parts that are not necessary for you to enjoy strategic layer.
So they're glossing over the
Yeah.
reality of the situation. So saying, hey, look,
Yes.
you can play, and I suppose it's the same with like if you look at Company of Heroes or any game. I mean, World War II is one of the most gamified conflicts ever, and of course it is because it's a huge event and it's massive in popular culture. Still, you look at Saving Private Ryan, look at Band of Brothers. It's in movies, it's in TV, it's in video games as well. Is it okay to do that? Is it okay to say, "Oh, look, you can play as Nazi Germany here," given the atrocities that were carried out by Nazi Germany? It's okay, guys, you can play as Germany and you can go and invade Poland or invade France. Is that fine? Is that okay?
You see, the point is how you treat the whole situation. So, as a guy from Poland that had pretty rough history, I would say, at this point, and people in Poland in general really like playing strategy games and historical ones, and like 90% of our history is losing some battles to some enemies and stuff like that. I believe that if the game is treating the whole conflict in a, let's say, strategic focused way, and if providing an information, they are doing it, let's call it correctly historically, like no one at this point is shouting about it, like it happened, we deal with it, we move on. But on the other hand, if we would got the game about Second World War and that would focus really hard on the really bad things that happened in that time, I guess it wouldn't be treated so well in this society. So
I think I understand what you're getting at, Adam. Just let it play out, but let's not glorify all the terrible things that were done, right?
Exactly.
Let people experience some of that history, but don't let them live and revel in those dark moments, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And like one thing that me and we in Poland as a country we are often dealing with is that some other countries are trying to, or maybe like people, not countries, people try to look for the different sides of the history that's either beneficial or not beneficial to us in terms of like making something better than it was or worse than it was. And what I believe at this point is really important is to look as objectively at the stuff as we can. So we know that horrible things happen. We shouldn't glorify them. We should acknowledge them and just leave it be how it was. We cannot change the past. We can only look at it, and the more accurate we make it in terms of like not pushing it to any sides of the political discourse and stuff like that, the better, I guess.
It's whitewashing, isn't it? I think that's the phrase that we use. It's whitewashing, because I hear what you're saying, and I do agree that we should be allowed to play. And don't get me wrong, I love the Command and Conquer games where you get to play as the Soviets against the Allies, or Command and Conquer Generals, which is essentially at least 2003, I think it came out, and it's basically the Gulf War. It's America versus the terrorists, essentially, is what it is. And we play these games without really giving it a second thought. And I'm not against that. I guess when it comes to World War II and when it comes to playing as Germany as a faction, no matter how it's presented, we know what the history is. We know what Nazi Germany did. We know the victims. Well, we don't know them personally, but we know there was millions of victims of the Third Reich, of Nazi Germany, of Hitler's henchmen. And yet we play as those factions, and we kind of get on with it. And I suppose it's whitewashing. We're saying, yeah, we know what they did, but it's okay. You can still play this game. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm asking you, is that right or is that wrong?
I've never played Hearts of Iron. It's the only Paradox game that is missing from my stable of Paradox games, and it makes me want to play it. Not to play Germany, but I didn't even know. I was not even aware of this. What we're talking about, really. It's interesting.
So I played Hearts of Iron a lot, and and I played as a Germany a lot too. And basically, because in Hearts of Iron, so everyone who doesn't know, you can go three ways with a country. You can go fascist, you can go Nazis, or you can go with democracy. This is the three ways you can go with country. Basically, what you can try to go either way. Like, what would happen if you, for example, try to force democracy in there? Or maybe you just want to try be better than one guy who ruled this country at some point, and stuff like that. But on the terms, but this is one term of the gameplay. On the other hand, when I would like to make a world conquer challenge, like I don't quite care about history at this point. I just want to do the challenge of the gameplay. I challenge myself to beat everyone, and I'm not thinking about like countries as a people. I'm just like, this is the game. On the other hand, like you can deal with it from a tactical point of view only.
World War II was 80 years ago, so you have that kind of you have that distance now in terms of time. It's probably easier to stomach playing as the bad guys in a World War II game because we're far removed from it. But then there's games which are coming out now, and I wanted to talk to Adam in particular about this one, being European. It's called Ukrainian Warfare Gostomel Heroes. Have you seen this one?
I read about it, unfortunately.
You read about it, yeah. And I think, unfortunately, it's the right thing. And it's kind of a weird situation because I first saw this and it was brought up on Reddit and people saying it should be banned from Steam and all this kind of stuff. And I was right behind these people saying it should be banned because ultimately it's developed by what is essentially, I think, a front for the Russian government. I think Katsu Play is the developer. They also did a game called Syrian Warfare, which is a very, very similar thing. But they've released this game called Gostomel Heroes. Gostomel is the airport, which I think was subject to an airborne invasion at the start of the Ukrainian conflict, but it's also linked to Bucha or Bucha. Forgive me if I've just completely butchered that word, which is
Bucha is the name.
Bucha.
Yeah.
Bucha, thank you. Which is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a large town or small city on the very, very close to Kyiv and very close to the airport, which was subjected to war crimes at the hands of Russian armed forces. The Steam page describes the game as a beautiful airborne assault or words to that effect. And the game is called Ukrainian Heroes, and it depicts the actions of forces that in very, very recent memory, in very, very recent history, went on and committed documented war crimes. All we've been talking about is about bad guys and about World War II and is it okay to play as Nazi Germany? Is this the kind of thing that we should be allowing to be on Steam, a game which is developed by a company which is funded in part by the Russian state, which depicts military units which committed war crimes and atrocities against civilians as heroes? I mean, would you play that game?
Man, you know I wouldn't, for sure. For me, so see, I wholeheartedly think that this game should be banned. That's what I believe. On the other hand, like, okay, this game should be banned. And when we go into banning the games for what they are saying and what they are describing, there are parts of our history, like the countries in Europe, for example, that one country thinks about conflict in one way and one country thinks about certain conflict in one way. Of course, that thing that happened in Ukraine is horrible, and I believe again that this game should be banned. I just wonder how far it can go. You know what I mean? Like, because I know, for example, then in German edition of Hearts of Iron 4, or basically in every edition of Hearts of Iron 4, certain flags were changed to be more, let's call it, not aggressive. On the other hand, me as a Polish guy, I believe it wasn't a good choice because that was history. Like, on the other hand, like, it happened, this flag was there, it was used. I don't know where is where is this border we cannot cross, into censorship. But I wholeheartedly believe that this game is huge pile of shit. This should be banned. And that's what I think. But on the other hand, this topic is so wide that I cannot even like comprehend the edge cases that we should consider when we are choosing if we should censor and ban something or not.
Where do you draw the line? You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. I don't agree that it should be banned. And that might sound weird. And I wrote about this game when I first saw it, and it made me feel uncomfortable. I was like, how can people release this when you've got victims of this particular atrocity who can see this? They can go on Steam and they can see this game and it's like, what do you mean heroes? They're not heroes, they're butchers, they're evil people. But I kind of fell short of saying it should be banned because you're right. I think perspective is such a feature here, and they say that history is written by the victor. Yeah, so I said, well, actually, do you know what? Like we in the West or in Europe is saying, well, this game is disgusting. It never should have happened. It's an affront to decency. I guess it's one of those situations where did anybody complain about Battlefield Vietnam? Or about America's Army, which I think is which is essentially like a first-person shooter recruitment video game for the U.S. Army, and the documented atrocities, if you want to use those particular words again, that were committed by the United States military when it bombs civilian populations all across the world. But we kind of think it's okay to play as the US, but it's not okay to play as Russian forces.
No, I'm basically what I would say is the words war crimes are the keys to the situation at this point, and the freshness of the situation and the angle of the situation, because this is the really current depiction of current conflict, and you have another game that depicts the same conflict, and basically no one maybe not cares, but no one has issues with it. And you probably played Terra Invicta, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
And in there, the conflict is depicted. The Ukraine fights with Russia. So, and like no one's ever had an issue with it. Like it happens. This is what it is. It's a history, and so that's why
framing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And this game, like this is the factor that we should take into consideration. And another factor is also the freshness of the stuff. And the freshness, I mean, was really like recent event. And the third factor is if this game would be even described in a different way, like current depiction of the conflict of Russia and Ukraine, and just leave it as it is, maybe it would be for me easier to digest. But it's done in such a way that it's really hard for me to, I don't know, cope with it. This is this guttural feeling that I have that it's wrong.
I agree with you, mate. I do. I think that it's you're right. The framing of it is really important there. But what we're going to do is we're going to leave it there, okay? Because I think we both have very, very strong opinions on this. But what I'd like to do is invite our listeners to come and join our Discord and talk to us about this, because we're happy to talk about real world situations and real world politics and things that you may find that you can't talk about on other Discord servers. Come and join us. Come and tell us what you think of the depictions of real-world conflict in video games, and tell us who your favorite bad guy is in a video game as well.
I wonder if maybe we get this one listener from India who shouted out like, "Gandhi is not a nuker. You should leave him alone." So you see, history has sides.
It does, but. History has sides. I think that can be the subtitle for this episode. Adam, thanks very much, and Joe, thanks very much. It's really appreciated you joining me. I know it's late for you there, mate, Adam, so thank you very much. This has been Critical Moves. Thanks for tuning in, thanks for listening, or thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, do us a favor, hit subscribe, follow, like, whatever. Please the algorithm gods. Let's get the Critical Moves message out there. And if you go to criticalmovespodcast.com, you'll find all the ways to get in touch with links to our Discord, to our social media. Come and say hi, and we'll see you next time. So thanks for listening. Take it easy. Goodbye.